All right, here we go. We're still talking about solving systems of equations using graphing. But in this example, our two equations are no longer in slope-intercept form. We are now what's called standard form, right? And you have a choice. You could either solve this equation for y by subtracting x and dividing by -2, and subtracting 4x and dividing by 2, or you can use another method of graphing. What is another method of graphing different than slope-intercept form that would be advantageous in this method? Anybody know? What's the best way to graph these two equations? Math word starts with an I. I'll give you a hint. We're going to do this and this.
Intercepts.
Intercepts. Very good. We're going to use intercepts. Write this down. Use intercepts when in standard form. This is standard form. Okay? And so the best method right here, right now, especially when you have coefficients on the y's, is to use intercepts. Okay? We're going to figure out our x-intercept. We're going to figure out our y-intercept. Okay? We're going to figure out our x-intercept, and we're going to figure out our y-intercept. And this is not to say that we're not going to end up with fractions, because we are with one of them. But for the most part on these, we're going to stay away from getting fractions, and that's a good thing. If you ended up with fractions with all four of these, you might want to consider going back and using slope-intercept, solving for y and using slope-intercept. But for these, they'll be okay. All right. So how do we find the x-intercept? I'm reviewing you. How do we find the x-intercept? We cover up the y and we solve. In order to find the x-intercept, we cover up y. You might want to write that down if that's not something that you remember. To find the x-intercept, we cover up y, and easily, what is the x-intercept here? 4. X-intercept is at 4. Notice how I put x int. Don't just put x equals. It's kind of a different. When you say x equals 4, that's a line. It's not an intercept. All right, how about here? We cover up the x, and what is the y-intercept? -2. We solve that in our head, hopefully, and we get -2. So on my graph in blue here, right, the x-intercept's +4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's where it crosses the x-axis. The y-intercept is what? -2. What am I going to do?
Down 2.
I'm going to go down 2 and put a dot. And so there's my line right there. There's my two intercepts. I graph my two intercepts, and I have my hand-drawn graph through those two intercepts. I'll give you a chance to catch up. Questions? Anybody have a question at this point? All right, we're solving a system, right? We have 3 different methods. The method we're using right now is graphing. We have 3 different outcomes, right? We can have one solution, no solution, and infinitely many. We hadn't talked about these yet, or we're going to. Okay? All right, let's talk about x-intercept on this one. This one's where we get a fraction. It's no big deal. But when I cover up, or no, not yet. When I cover up y, yeah, we do. When I find the x-intercept and I cover up y, I get 4x is equal to 6. When I divide by 4, I don't get a whole number. 6 over 4 is not a whole number. What is it?
3 over 6.
Which is?
1.15.
It's better to put it in decimal form so that you understand it's halfway in between 1 and 2. 3 over 2, you may not know where that is on the graph. But 1.5, everybody knows, hey, I go to 1, I go a half. All right, how about the y-intercept? What do I do to find the y-intercept, Conan?
2y.
I cover up what?
X.
Cover up x. Okay? It's nice because I don't get a fraction. What is 6 over 2?
3.
+3. Okay? So, yes, I got a decimal or a fraction. That's no big deal. I can handle it. It's not too bad, 1.5. Okay, so now I need to plot those 2 points. The x-intercept's 1.5. There it is right there. Piece of cake. The y-intercept is what?
3.
+3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So my line goes through this point, and it goes down. This is where the educated guess is going to become so important. I don't know for sure where they cross. I'm going to make an educated guess, and then I've got to check it. Trevor, what do you think? The educated guess, where do you think those 2 points cross on my hand graph here?
2, 1.
Not 2, 1. That would be up here. 2, -1, right? We're in quadrant 4. That's 2, -1. That looks good to me, right? And what I'm telling you is if I ask you to solve it by graphing, I'm going to stay away from fractions being in the answers. Okay, that's ridiculously hard if there's fractions and you don't have a graphing calculator or a computer software or something like that. Okay, so if it's solved by graphing, the answer will not have a decimal in it. All right, we've got to check. This is our guess. 2, -1. Let's check it. 2 right here and -1 right there. Does that work?
Yes.
Yes, it does. I get 4 on both sides, right? 2 plus 2 is 4. All right, let's check this one. If I put a 2 right there and a -1 right there, I get 8 minus 2. Does that equal 6?
Yes.
Yes, it does. So 2, -1. It checked in this equation, it checks in this equation, and you're good to go. Okay? We have to be able to graph linear equations, guys. And I reviewed you, right? I reviewed you with slope-intercept. I reviewed you with X and Y intercepts. But we have to be proficient in Accelerated Math 3 at being able to graph linear equations. Okay? We also should be proficient at radicals and quadratics and cubics. Okay? Questions? Any questions on this problem? All right.